Hi guys.
Hi. Welcome back to BeanTeens, guys.
Woo. Yay.
Today's topic is about sex ed because we recently had a class
Sex ed.
about it. Yeah,
First,
and we
wait,
wanted to talk
roll
about
call.
it.
Roll call.
Oh, hi, I'm Anna.
Cat.
Michiko.
Lirika.
And Such.
Let's talk about the problem with sex ed.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the problems first.
Because I think we all agree that sex ed is very important and everyone needs it, and it's very not good. Although my vocabulary is very limited, but it's sex ed could be much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sex ed is very misogynistic sometimes. Like it tends to become misogynistic.
The biggest thing that I didn't like about our sex ed is like the fact that the boys and the girls were separated, and like I'm assuming that like some content because of that like changed depending on our like gender and stuff. So I didn't like that.
Yeah, same. Because when you think about it, there's no reason why girls and boys should be separated because it's sex ed. We all should be learning the exact same thing anyways. And like, I mean, even when you think about the whole separation thing, that just like assumes that everybody in the grade is cisgender, which means like you identify with the gender you were born with. And like that kind of raises like a whole other problem, right? Because assumptions. Yeah. And then yeah, like you said, like there's no reason, like I said or like you said, like there's no reason why it should be separated because we should be learning the same things anyways. And even if the whole grade is, or like even if the whole cohort or like, you know, the group of people who are learning the sex ed, not only in our school, like in other schools as well, even if they're like, even if they are cisgender, there's no reason why you shouldn't know about the opposite gender. And like, because when you become like an adult and say you decide to have kids and your kids aren't of the same sex as you, you know, the assigned at birth, then you should know about like what they're going through kind of thing. And like guys should know about periods and girls should know about penises. I don't really know what, see, I don't even know much about penises, like to the point where I'm like, I don't even know what there is to know. And
that's true.
Sad. And it doesn't teach you anything about like transgender things, like how to transition or like hormones and stuff, or like
hormones,
or like, you know, transgender men and like periods or stuff like that. Like we don't learn anything about that. And even so, again, that assumes that we're all cisgender, and that's super problematic. But then that's like even if we are, I feel like we should know, because again, if we have kids, and even if you don't have kids, like it's human body. I feel like you should know these kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know if that made sense, but
also it reminds me that we don't even learn about sexuality in school.
Nope.
Or like, have we? No. I swear, there's nothing like sexuality related that I.
Yeah. Oh, and like.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever did we ever learn about like how we've learned about how sex works, like the intercourse part, right?
I think
we
so.
learned that?
But it's like really
honestly,
simplified.
Yeah.
But, honestly, I don't remember.
Like, and like I remember my teacher, like, I think in like grade 7 or something, we had sex ed once, and then I remember my teacher saying how sex isn't just for reproduction when it comes to humans, it's also for pleasure and stuff. But then we never learn anything about gay pleasure. Or lesbian or like non-cis het sex. We don't learn anything about that. We don't know how that works. Yeah. So of course, like, people are gonna end up learning things from the internet, and what's on the internet? Porn. And like, and then people are like not upset. I mean, of course, people can be upset, not can be, should be, or whatever, upset about like learning sex from porn, but like you kind of have to when when the whole education system doesn't teach you shit. You know,
And it's so ironic though. It's ironic because like, one, it's illegal to watch porn, right? Under 18. But then like, yeah, I think so.
Oh, it's like rated 18.
Yeah. So like,
but it's
in
free on the
that sense,
internet.
it's like, so in that sense, it's like we have to literally go to places where it's not, where we aren't allowed to, because school doesn't teach us enough things. And that's like obviously like the wrongful part here.
Our education system needs to be revised.
It does. It does. It needs to be
And
updated big time.
And it's like, I swear there's some people who don't even consider like lesbian sex as sex, which like, again, we all have to learn about these things. Like, honestly, I wouldn't know
feel like
either.
especially when it comes to lesbian sex, because lesbian sex on porn is catered towards straight men. It's for them to enjoy.
Yeah. Ooh,
So like that's, you know, I mean, I don't know if that's real because
Misogynistic
version.
people.
And then, but then at the same time, because of porn, it's like girls feel like they have to. I feel like, okay, I feel like girls are set up to have to like moan really loudly or like in a high pitched voice or whatever, and then there's guys who have to like. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be so TMI, but guys have to like last for 15 minutes or maybe more. And like they have to have a huge, I'm not gonna say it, but they had to have a huge or something. And it's like there's so many like norms or like.
It does set up unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. But it's like in reality, it's like you really have to experience to know. You really have to like understand.
But then you
to
also
know.
get like, I feel like there's also like a social stigma or like social. Maybe this is more so the U.S. I'm not sure because like I feel like U.S. media kind of portrays it like this. But it's like if you don't know how, if you've never had sex before college or something, then it's like a, oh my god, what's wrong? Not what's wrong with you, but it's like people look at you funny kind of thing.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's
like you're nerdy or whatever.
Or like basically if you don't know how sex works, then it's bad. But then they don't teach you well, and then you have to resort to the internet or your own experience. But if you go to it, if you have your first experience and you have no idea what you're doing, then that's also bad. So it's just like this whole
Bad.
weird. It's weird. It's a weird thing. Then I wish schools could do better.
I feel like that connects also with just like how, like, it also leads to how like the lack of proper sex, it just leads to a lot of victims, you know. I feel like,
Oh yeah.
especially if you don't have access to the internet, or if you're just not the type to like, you know, be more exposed to the internet and like the real quotation mark sex ed, then you're kind of like immersed in this idea that sex is only for reproductive purposes. And if like, and it's like, especially after high school, you have like no protection whatsoever from your parents, and so you're just so like you're just an easy target to like sexual assault and stuff like that. And
You know,
within sex ed, I feel like they don't teach us about assault either. It's just
Oh, yeah.
so like scientific based.
True.
Sorry.
that reminds me of like
Yeah,
this
that's so true.
tweet that I saw. Like, it was a Japanese tweet, but then like when I translated it, it's like something along the lines of how because of porn, men and women too in a way, but like especially men, they build this. Oh, I'm not saying that they're like to blame, but then they find like, you know, things like BDSM to be like, okay, I'm not saying it's fake, but then they find it to be like a common thing or whatever, and they don't like respect it to be like, you know, they don't like think that it's like a fetish or like their personal preference. They find it to be like
the standard.
a common thing, which leads to like this issue of like of girls, you know, or like the partner being assaulted but without realizing. Like both of them wouldn't realize that because they find BDSM to be like the social norm or something, which is, it's like, when you think of, I mean, for someone who like knows enough, that's like really shocking. But then when you think about it, for someone who doesn't know anything about sex, it's like, there are people who might as well think BDSM is the common way to do it or something, and it's bad. And I so when I saw that tweet, I really like thought it was like really true and kind of made me mad. So I sent it to a friend, and she asked me how she literally asked me, how do you get hurt by sex? And I was kind of shocked because, again, I kind of went in, you know, to I deliberately went and searched up stuff and learned stuff by myself, and that's why I know these kind of things. But when you don't deliberately learn about it, and you only rely on school or something to teach you about sex and stuff, it's like you really know nothing, and it's so dangerous. Anyway, yeah, that was my point. It's just really dangerous not knowing these stuff.
It's ironic how schools they incorporate sex education into they don't incorporate it into the curriculum because, God forbid, we shouldn't learn about sex on a daily basis. But, because, like, they say it's to protect, right? They teach us about STDs, they teach us about contraceptive methods. But then, by not teaching us all the other stuff, it's not like, it has the opposite effect, because obviously, like as Kat and Michiko said earlier, you get everything from the internet now to answer like your questions that you've had, but you couldn't ask the teachers there because they wouldn't know, or they wouldn't teach you. And like those who don't have like access to those kinds of like information is obviously going to be left like vulnerable. And like you have to understand, like everyone now, because a lot of us have like access to the internet, we are going to get our answers there one way or another, or from like other people who have experienced it. And if you leave out a huge chunk of like sex ed and just leave us this very, very, very slim base of like what it is, then you're unconsciously exposing us to like everything, not bad, but like there's a lot of things on the internet that isn't either true or it's like exaggerated. So if you don't teach us like more, then
right now,
we're going to, we don't have the guidance of which like thing on the internet, what information on the internet is like actually true, or actually like applicable to real life, I guess.
And it's like for someone who's Japanese, for someone who has been in Japan for like my entire life, it's like here I feel like talking about sex or like any like or sexuality or like anything like that is, I mean, it's not bad, it's not really looked down or anything, but it's definitely something that's really awkward in a way, which like makes it difficult for me to like talk about it with my parents for sure. But I mean, personally, I don't really like need my parents to rely. I mean, I don't have to rely on them about this kind of things. But again, I'm not like the only one for me, I'm just privileged enough to have the internet and like, have friends and have not the teachers at school, but like actually like have some sort of resources that I can rely on, that it isn't my parents. But when you think about it, there has to be some people who only have their who they can only rely on their parents to talk about these kind of things. But when you're in places like Japan, it's really difficult because they're just this social, it's not a construct, but
Stigma.
Is it
a stigma?
Something like that. That surrounds like talking about this. And
also because imagine we have been privileged enough to even receive some education, like sex ed, but imagine I assume there are also schools out there that give absolutely zero, and that's even bigger of a problem, because then that's who learn nothing about contraceptives or STDs and stuff, because then obviously that's what creates spread of diseases and unwanted pregnancies, and that's I feel really bad for them, because if they don't learn it from the internet, and if they don't even have access to the internet, then that's why there's so many, that's why there can be problems like that around the world, and that's why education is really important.
Sorry.
By the way, just to give context, Anna has a bird, and is it a he or she? Oh, we don't know.
Still don't know.
So
the bird
is very pretty. I mean, very cute. But the bird keeps on, I don't know,
flying into frame.
Yeah.
It's really funny because
tapping on the keyboard.
And it's really funny because the way Anna moves the bird is so natural. Like she literally just scoops him up and moves him like it's like a dust.
But then he keeps coming back.
He probably thinks it's like a ride or something.
You know how for our school they asked the parents to confirm whether their child can attend sex ed? I know this, they do that because of religious reason. I can't speak. Religious reasons, or cultural reasons, but I feel like now, I would get it if we were in a country that has a very strong religious sense, I guess, and if we had community that has a lot of people who strongly believe in their religion. And I'm not saying our class doesn't, because there are some of our classmates do, but right now I feel like the students themselves should get to decide whether they want to take it or not, and not their parents, because they're the ones that are all going to going to college after they graduate. They're the ones that are going to be in control of their life after they leave their home. So the parents deciding what their child should learn and not learn is a bit just
I agree.
I mean, to be honest, I think there shouldn't even be a decision. I feel like you should learn it anyways. It should be part of the curriculum. That's my opinion. But
think about it.
I feel sorry, even the religious part, I feel like you should still learn it though. I mean, I'm not religious, and I've never been, so I never learned really anything about religion, other than what you kind of hear from the internet and stuff, or brief stuff maybe we've learned in class by chance. But correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it also unwanted pregnancies and stuff? Isn't that also a problem in countries that may be really religious, because there's that lack of education for the women?
It's because most countries they don't really have a thing for unwanted pregnancies and stuff like that, because it's they just don't want people to understand the concept of contraceptive and the option of having that, and the fact that you have that option, and so they just want you to have babies if you do get pregnant, whether it was unwanted or not. and that's why they just don't want sex ed into the picture.
I don't know if this is like true, because again, I don't know much about religion, but isn't it like contraceptives and stuff, they go against certain religions, and that's why.
That's why they just don't want like sex ed and the children being exposed to that. They're just like taught that like, oh, if you're pregnant, you're having the baby, you're not getting rid of it. There's no option like that.
All right,
It should be
because
I think it should be a choice though.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, it should be a choice, but again, there are certain things that
I mean, even in a religious
are
country,
formed.
I feel like it should be a choice, but I guess
I mean, but isn't
it's
that
a
the
whole
point?
religion topic that I'm not familiar with. So
Like honestly, unwanted pregnancies, like even that itself just leads to so many more issues.
Isn't it kind of
Child
ironic?
abandonment and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
so
bad
ironic.
for the women's health. Sorry, Michiko, go on.
No, I mean nothing. It's just like it's ironic because they talk about how unwanted pregnancies are so bad, but then at the same time they don't do anything about unwanted pregnancies and just
like educating contraceptives.
Yeah, and it's like,
Or like even the
what
laws.
do you want me to do?
Even some countries, the law is like limiting people from like unwanted.
Yeah, like in Japan too. It's like you can't get an abortion.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
their choice. You're not gonna like take care of my baby face.
It doesn't
Government
affect
is
you.
always full
It
of
doesn't affect you.
men, middle-aged men. So funny. Going back to education kind of thing, I wish other than the like very scientific reproductive purposes of sex and of course the pleasure aspect of it, I wish they would also kind of focus on the more human side of it, like the emotion aspect. Sometimes like going back to misogynistic and like Michiko's BDSM stuff, but by not like by teaching
Michiko's
them
BDSM
about
stuff.
how to, like
Sorry.
it not in the sexual but like a practical way, but by not teaching kids about emotion, like emotion care and like how we should be treating each other, especially like during a time when like both parties are vulnerable. It kind of teaches like it's also about like not ethics but like just teaching you how to be a better person in general, but it also just like reduces the chance that like guys are going to misunderstand sex as something that they can use to dominate or like have control over the female population, and the females being like weak and like dominated stuff. It just like from there it just creates a lot of opportunities for for both genders to misinterpret this whole concept. So I feel like they should be taught like this isn't some like toxic masculinity opportunity or anything like that. It's like a way to appreciate each other and a way to like find pleasure and stuff like that.
Ooh, also wait, adding on, I have two things to add on to that. First of all, I don't know if this will be a part of sex ed, but we should also be taught about like, I feel like we should also be taught about toxic masculinity and stuff, because I definitely feel like our people I know are not embodying it, but like have it in their brains, like toxic masculinity. And I think not just men, not just boys, but also girls, or like toxic femininity, and I don't know, just we should learn about those kind of stuff as well. But also another thing that we should add to the sex ed is like adding on to the sex, like learning about sexualities, but also like asexuals and aromantic, because those are, if you don't know, asexual is when you have, okay, don't quote me, I think it's when you not lack, but you don't have the desire to have any sex, and aromantic is like when you don't have any desire to be in a romantic relationship, but you can still have sex, and you can still be in like a relationship. It's also with like asexuals, you can still be in a romantic relationship, it just means you don't desire it. Yeah, something like that. But we're not told that. We're taught that having sex is normal, and then having sex for pleasure is like you need to kind of not need to, but you have to desire it, kind of thing. Like we're like just society in general. I think maybe porn as well. I don't know, but like it's like if you're not horny, basically, then there's something wrong with you. It's like kind of the idea, I
Yeah.
feel like, that's imposed onto us.
A lot of
Yeah.
And that's not true.
normalization happens in education stuff.
Yeah.
Imposing of like standards and what you need to do, what you need to be, and it's, like starts really young.
I mean, definitely education is something really complex because there's so many different types of people, there's so many different types of culture, and I guess there's also like the sense that if we say that what we're asking for is the correct way, then that's like saying that this is the only way kind of thing. And though I agree with it because I'm the one who's saying that it should be like this, I guess.
I get it. It's all a
I mean,
big,
I wish they wouldn't, like, when they teach us, they wouldn't completely limit it in the sense that, like, when they talk about it, they only mention like heterosexual, like, sex activities, because when they say that, then obviously the students who listen to them are going to think, oh, so that's the standard, that's like the general
That's the normal
correct way of doing something. And then what happens to all the other people who don't fit into that category? They're going to, well, it might
when they'll never learn about it until they may never realize that they are not cishet, not cisgender or heterosexual.
Like create a mental, like, you know, like a toll on them, because they are basically what was the word?
Like, what is it, like shut down? They're like excluded,
like,
ignored in society, kind of thing. Ignored in education.
I mean, they don't have to go into depth when they talk about it. They just have to mention, oh, but this is not the only way. It's just one of the most common ways, or, you know, something like that. Because then it's like, oh, okay, so that's not the only option. Like, there are other options.
But I think if they're gonna talk about, they should talk about homosexual stuff and heterosexual stuff the same amount. It should be equal. It shouldn't be like more heterosexual and then, oh, by the way, there's also homosexual, but we're gonna stick to heterosexual education. Like, no, it should be heterosexual, homosexual. It doesn't matter if you're gay or straight or lesbian or whatever you identify as. I mean, I guess you don't need to learn about the opposite sexuality, but but at the same time, when you're at a young age, you either may not know or you do know, but you are not out of the closet. You know, you're hidden because society and whatever. So to minimizing like forcing people to out themselves, like, and be like, okay, if you're gay, go to this class. If you're straight, go to this class, and like get a different education. Just give it to everybody, so then everybody knows, and then someone could question themselves. Because in truth, I don't think anybody should be born and assume that they're straight, and I don't think anyone should assume that they are cisgender either. Like, if you know, you know. Like, I know I'm cisgender, and I don't know about my sexuality, but I know I'm cisgender, right? So there's that. But sometimes you may not know, or especially if you don't even know that non-cis, non-het is even an option, like, to start with, then yeah, just in general, sex ed can help you figure yourself out. Yeah.
Also, it can, like, create this atmosphere of, like, respect, I guess, because once you learn about both sides, then you have more knowledge about, like, both genders. So in that sense, you can, you know, not empathize, but
Sympathize.
No, like, you can just try to understand their perspective. But because we're separated, we have no idea what goes on in the minds of guys. The guys probably don't know what goes in the mind of girls. And you know how we had a discussion with the girls, like, or our sex ed?
Yeah.
I wish we could do that with, like, the entire grade and make it normal to ask these kind of questions in front of both genders, because then
Oh yeah.
it makes it more like not normalized, but
I mean, normalized in a way,
Yeah,
though.
I would say no.
it makes it less awkward, and we get to
I mean, yeah, it would probably make it
communicate better.
easier for
And,
like
like-
some girls to talk about it to some guys. I mean, if obviously only if they want to, but again, it literally seems like okay, it's just an assumption, right? But it's like it seems as if the guys don't know anything, like regardless of what they actually know or not, because we're always segregated when we do we do these kind of things. We just assume that they know nothing, and it's like that's also a bad like interpretation to have.
And like adding on to like, cause so what we had a while, like 2 weeks ago in our sex ed was that we had the boys and girls separated. I don't know what the boys did, but the girls we just answered questions we had about whatever amongst like as a discussion, like Anna said. But I feel like most of the girls, or I feel like we barely know already. Like I feel like we didn't have that much questions about sex ed related. I don't know. It was more like we had a question about like how to prevent or like how to like assault related stuff. We had like some questions about that, but like yeah, I feel like we all pretty much know about period and stuff because it's not because outside of class we've talked about it to one another.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's especially because we experience it, you know, like you know, we physically experience periods. We physically have to go through, you know, a couple of days, literally bleeding out, and that's you know, and like for me, my cycle is like pretty irregular, right? So okay, I don't know why I said right, as if
right, yeah, yeah.
But it's like it's pretty irregular, and because it's irregular, I go on the internet and I search things up about whether irregular periods are normal, and I, you know, because of that, I learn more about the female body, and that's how I kind of educated myself. So in that way, we are already like opened up to this, like we kind of have to, in a way, know about these kind of things in order to survive.
I think the internet is super useful, and I think it's great to use the internet as a source of education because that's what most people do these days anyways. Because let's be real, who uses textbooks? But we shouldn't have to. I mean, I think it's good to like if you forgot or something to remind yourself. But I feel like we should at least first learn it through the school, like about irregular periods or about like because we're taught about how periods should be like what's like 2 to 7. Oh my god, 2 days. Imagine. Sorry, just imagine. Whoa. So it's like 2 to 7 days or something, and then it's like between 28 days. Like the cycle should be 28 to like 37 days. I don't know.
Yeah, something
like that. But obviously, it's not like that for everybody. There's irregular periods, and there's reasons why you get irregular periods, or sometimes there's an absence of periods, and like there's just more to it that should be taught, especially because when you're younger, it's likely to be more irregular because you're still starting out. But then as you get older, it should either stabilize, and if it doesn't and stuff like that. So I feel like. But then I already know about it because of the internet and because I've searched it up myself. But then I don't know if other people know about it, and I don't know. It's just not really like my place to be like, do you know about this? Did you know about this? Did you know about this kind of thing? But like everybody in my cohort, but like I want and I would hope everybody knows what I know, but I know that that's probably not the case.
Yeah,
especially with the boys, but also with the girls, because I don't know what they're googling and stuff.
Yeah,
and especially for like sex ed, like most of the schools only have like 1 or 2 classes for like per year, like sex education. So like they should like increase the frequency and make us like more revealed to like sex information in general, you know, to make it more accepted by the society and the students as well, because education is like it
it's like really important for underage students to like establish their mindset and their like perceptions, right? So if we're like exposed to like sex education frequently, then wouldn't that also influence the future and like the future generations to have like a mindset of like how sex is, or like something related to sex is not something you should be embarrassed about, like it's something common.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Kat.
Okay.
So this might not be applicable to our country because we don't have too many cases of like teenage pregnancy, but for other countries, it is like a thing that happens, like when you're in high school. And I think I was reading this post about it, but instead of shaming the two that or the two partners, I guess, or the girl that got pregnant during like her teenage years, they should give more support for those who did get pregnant, because depending on your body type, there are people who like have, regularly have sex, but they're like they don't get pregnant that easily, and there are people who try it once and they
Bam.
yeah. So it's because like you don't know if they were being responsible enough to like take birth control or like, you know, have condoms on. And instead of being like, oh, you're like a shame to society for having sex in like high school when it's completely normalized in like other countries, you know, you should like, I feel like society should be more not forgiving. I keep saying more not something. Sorry. But they should teach us about, if that happens, then what should you do? Like what options you have, because if you just end it at, oh, well, your life is going to be hell. Your life is going to like crumble because you had sex when you were in high school, then that brings up a lot of problems for the person who is pregnant and the partner who impregnated a girl.
Mainly the mother, because, you know, often when you have young pregnancies or unwanted pregnancies, the the father figure, they run away or they might leave, and that causes a huge problem, economically, socially, mentally, just for the mother, for the baby, for the families involved. And it's but yeah, I wanted to add something similar to what you said, like give me a second. Okay. Oh yeah. So like I feel like I've heard arguments saying that, or arguments that believe that sex ed will actually promote sexual activity, but I think like what we've discussed today kind of really proves that it doesn't, because sex ed, a large part of it is contraceptives and STDs and stuff like that, and it's like super important. Also, like Planned Parenthood. I don't really know what Planned Parenthood is, but I know it's great. But I should know what it is, so I will Google it eventually.
I think for those who are
school
planning to become pregnant, right? They're like ready to, so then they just start like using less contraceptives and like.
I think like getting birth control and stuff is also part of Planned Parenthood, or like
it is.
Yeah, I think so.
See, we should. Like,
is it like that whole concept of like understanding and controlling your?
Like it's more than just abortions that some people think it is. It's more than just that, but I don't know what it is. and I probably should have Googled it before I came here today. But I don't know. School should have taught me better.
And it's like also like, how would sex education elicit more people to like have sex? Because like,
No,
how are you gonna?
that's why people don't want like homosexual like sex education, because then people think that promotes homosexual activity. And
How are we gonna have sex if we don't even have partners to have it?
no, but I mean that's why it like results to like people going to the internet and learning from the internet, and then that's a whole other problem, going back to what we've discussed already. You know, so it's just a whole cycle of.
The first thing that I thought of though was just like, how am I gonna have it if I don't have anyone to have it with? And I'm like, okay. But okay, I get. The world is a complex and big place. Yes.
Especially with what we've learned, I don't understand how they would think that promotes sexual activities, because one, all we
Wait, did she cut off?
Why is she frozen for me?
Yeah, all we learn.
Yeah. Oh, is Anna back?
Wait, am I back?
Yeah.
Yes, you're back.
So all we learn.
Wait.
Sorry. Experiencing some technical difficulties. All we've learned in the past is like all the negative effects of sex, like STDs, STIs, and how you can get unwanted pregnancies, those kind of things. I don't get how that would support sex, you know, like, oh, STDs, wow, I want to have sex now. Like, no one thinks like that. So I don't get where they're coming from.
I mean, I think that's like the whole, like that's the thing, because we've had that kind of education. We're like, how would it promote it? But then people who maybe have never had it, or like just assume it's only about how the intercourse part works and not actually beyond that, or like they don't think sex ed also includes periods and stuff like that. So I think it's just lack of education previously leading to lack of education in the future.
Ooh, also, they should teach, like, you know how when they taught us about how it works, like how it actually physically works, they should teach us about like how to get to that stage of you know,
like the emotional or like the romantic aspect.
You can't just expect, like, even if you're even if you both want it and you're like ready to do it, you can't just go from 0 to like boom, you know, and then like you have to have this like sort of process before you actually insert, you know, anything.
And that's so true,
the
though,
emotional
'cause-
aspect of it, right?
Yeah, but it's also true because like when you think about like all the sex we see, which is like in movies or in shows or on porn, we never see the aftermath, or it's like, especially in movies, it's obviously glorified, you know? It's like
Also,
it's made out to be something super like
who
but,
starts
obviously
making
not
out in the
everyone.
elevator, and the guy picks up the girl, and they go into the room together. Like, wow, I wish life was that smooth.
It's very exaggerated for sure. I
Like,
assume.
what if there was some dude, right, like waiting for the elevator? Like, what are you gonna do then, bro?
That would
True.
be very awkward. That would be very, very awkward.
So I'm gonna say,
I would not want to be the person going into the elevator after that. I'll just take the stairs.
But I think we should understand, or everyone should understand, that there is a process that you have to follow, because if not, then you might end up hurting your partner, like physically
Like process
and
that,
maybe
and, like,
emotionally, like, because it's
confirming
not
consent and stuff.
well, that too, but like the physical aspect. I mean, I can't say anything because I have no experience, but you know.
I mean, no, but I
based on
feel
the
like
internet-
there's no one way to have sex, so there's no like correct way. So I think that's not 100% true.
But you can't just, you know, like,
Yeah, I know. You can't. That would be very aggressive.
That's why I think we should have like I said before, we should have the reproductive aspect of it and like the pleasure, like the less not practical
Scientific?
but like scientific way, and then just like the emotional aspect
mm,
and like also the like branch out from that and talk about like identity and like what we like our sexuality and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I guess it's just like taboo subjects in general, but yeah.
I mean, it would be kind of. It's bad that it's awkward, but I feel like it would be kind of awkward to speak about it with teachers. But then the whole point is that they're there to educate us, and we need this education. So
It's their job to make the place friendly enough and just open so that we're not afraid to talk about it.
I mean, I hope that, 5, 17, 18-year-old girls talking about sex ed will actually spread awareness on how important this subject is, and also how, also like, I'm gonna wear this in a low-key weird way, but just to show that we're not dumb. I feel like there's a lot of adults or like teachers who find us to be like incompetent in a way.
you can't manipulate us.
Like, it's like we're not like completely dumb. We know stuff, and it's not like, we might not have.
I'm not dumb. I'm just bad with my words. I just can't make sentences on the spot.
Empowering.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, so yeah, that's a wrap.
Any concluding thoughts?
I hope you guys are doing
yeah.
okay. And if you have any questions, I mean, there is the internet, but
DM us if you want. Leave it in the
Yeah.
comment section below. If
And
you want.
comment below.
Why do we say this like we're sex therapists or something? Just like,
I mean, we're like, obviously we're not sex therapists and we don't know everything, but we're just there to provide like a friendly voice.
Companionship.
And like,
Someone you guys can come to if like
start a
your
discussion.
school, like your teachers or your parents aren't necessarily someone like people you go to that whenever you feel like you want to talk about something uncomfortable.
True. Let's start a discussion. All right, thanks guys for listening and tuning in. We really appreciate
You
it.
guys enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We'll see you guys soon. Have a great week and a great day
Bye-bye.
and a great night.
Oh crap.
Have a great day
Bye.
in life. All right, bye.
bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.